You know, every single day, there's this invisible river of power flowing through our homes. It powers everything we do. But here's the thing, that power can also be incredibly dangerous. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a tiny, unsung hero that stands guard against that danger. A little component whose whole job is to fail.
Whoa, okay, so at first glance, this looks bad, right? A flash, a spark, something's clearly broken. But believe it or not, what you're seeing isn't a failure. It's actually a total success. This is the story of the fuse, a tiny component making a huge sacrifice to protect you and your expensive electronics from a much, much bigger threat.
So what's this big threat we're talking about? The villain of our story is something called an electrical surge. Think of it as a sudden, violent tidal wave of electricity. It can instantly fry the delicate circuits inside your phone, your TV, your computer, you name it. It's a danger that's always lurking, completely invisible, right there in the wiring. But luckily, you know, for every villain, there's a hero. And yep, hidden away inside almost every electronic device you own, there's a silent guardian. A tiny bodyguard whose entire job is to watch over that flow of electricity, just waiting to spring into action at the very first sign of trouble. And that hero, that silent guardian? Well, it's the humble fuse. It's a component that's so small and so simple, you've probably never given it a second thought. And yet, its job is one of the most important in all of electronics. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, this really frames its purpose perfectly. It's designed to be a sacrificial shield. That's its one and only job, to take the hit, to literally throw itself in front of a dangerous electrical surge so that all the valuable, complicated stuff behind it gets to live another day.
So how does it actually pull off this heroic act? Well, it's a really clever three-step process. Okay, so in step one, everything's cool. You've got a normal, steady current flowing right through a tiny little wire inside the fuse. No problem. But then, bam! Step two, a surge hits. This massive rush of current superheats that wire until it's glowing red hot. And that leads us to the grand finale in step three, the sacrifice. That wire does what it was born to do. It melts. Poof! It vaporizes. And in that instant, the connection is broken, stopping that deadly surge dead in its tracks. I love this phrase because it sums up the entire philosophy of the fuse, doesn't it? It is designed from the ground up to be the one thing that fails. It is a single, calculated weak point that saves everything else. It breaks so your devices don't have to.
Okay, but how does it know when to self-destruct, right? How does it time that sacrifice so perfectly? Well, the physics behind it is actually beautifully simple.
It all comes down to a fundamental rule of electricity called Ohm's law. And don't worry, we're not going to do a bunch of math. The only thing you really need to know is this key relationship. Current, that's I, goes up when resistance, that's R, goes down. So when something causes the resistance to drop, the current can shoot up to dangerously high levels. And that massive spike in current, that's our surge.
And this is where the pure genius of the fuse comes into play. That thin little wire inside is engineered on purpose to be the weakest link in the entire electrical chain. It has a much lower melting point than any other wire or component in your device. It is intentionally fragile. Its weakness is its greatest strength.
And that weakness is precisely calibrated. It's not random at all. Take this one, for instance. It's rated for a maximum of 5 amps. That means it will happily let any current up to 5 amps pass through all day long, no complaints. But the very instant the current tries to go over that limit, poof, that sacrificial wire melts and the circuit is broken. It is a perfect, automatic cutoff switch.
So we've seen how they work, which is cool, but what does this tiny little part actually do for us in the real world? Why is this simple idea so absolutely critical to our modern lives?
Its mission is pretty much threefold. First, it's a shield. It protects your expensive devices from getting totally destroyed by power surges. Second, and this is maybe even more important, it prevents fires. That huge overflow of current can easily overheat wires in your walls or devices and start a really dangerous electrical fire. And third, it is unbelievably fast. It reacts the very moment danger strikes, breaking the circuit instantly.
Now, as you can probably guess, the electrical needs of a big car are way different from a little laptop charger. And because of that, our little hero comes in a whole variety of shapes and sizes, each one designed for a very specific mission.
First up, we've got the classic tube fuse. This is probably the one you picture in your head. It's that little glass or ceramic tube with a thin wire running right through the middle. You'll find these guys everywhere, in household appliance plugs,
power strips, and all sorts of older electronics.
Next up, blade fuses. Yes, if you've ever had to look at the fuse box in your car, you've definitely seen these colorful little protectors. They plug in just like a blade. And the best part is, each color corresponds to a different amperage rating, which makes them super easy to identify and replace.
And finally, we have the heavy-duty guardians, ceramic fuses. Now, they might look a little bit like the glass tube ones, but that solid ceramic body makes them way more robust. They are built to handle the higher currents and hotter temperatures that you'd find in big appliances and serious industrial equipment. So, from the plug on your wall to the engine in your car, this humble little component is a cornerstone of modern electrical safety. It's one of the most critical, yet most forgotten safety devices ever invented. It really is a tiny bodyguard, a silent guardian that makes our electrified world not just possible, but safe.
You know, the fuse is such a perfect example of an invisible system that's designed just for our protection. It works silently in the background, and we only ever notice it when it makes that ultimate sacrifice for us. So that leaves us with a final thought. What other invisible guardians are out there, protecting you every single day?